The news break over Parag Agarwal becoming the CEO of Twitter has been received with a great deal of, Bharat Mata ki Jai and Jai Bharat, a lot of pride on social media, but there's also a lot of, a lot of mixed feelings because people have been saying this is also symptomatic of everything that is wrong with India because Indians are making it big abroad. Why can't they do the same thing over here? Why can't we see these big companies here? Really good to have Saket Modi. He's the CEO and co-founder of Safe Security, a big cyber security firm. Saket is in his 30s. He shifted to the US. He's made it big over there. Ayush Elavati, my friend and colleague from Mumbai, he's our tech editor. Saket, to you first. I'm asking a very simple question, Saket, because this reflects the kind of emotions we've seen in the reactions, especially on social media when Parag Agarwal's announcement came out. Is this a Jai Bharat moment or is this a Jai brain drain moment? Saket, you're on mute. Apologies for that. You're on mute.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I think "you're on mute" has been the favorite sentence of all of 2020 and 21. I actually think it has to do with both. So I partly agree on both the sentences, and I'll tell you why I say that. Let's first start with why I think it's a Jai Bharat thing also. India not only is the largest producer of engineers on the planet, it also is one of those rare countries while producing those volume of engineers, it is going ahead and producing a democracy, an English-speaking nation, which can be embraced by a majority of the planet which is out there. Because today, most of the examples that you gave in the beginning of this show are, tech CEOs. That means you need engineers generally running the company who understand in first principles how the company works. And because of that, having a base where you get some of the top talent who are engineers, who can speak in English, and who are global in nature, really makes a lot of difference. The other thing special about India, I actually think, because, we have hundreds of people in our organization, it's actually pretty good to get people who have hustled in their life early on. Because remember, the US is a $16 trillion economy, while India is a $2 trillion economy. The difference between the standard of living for anybody who is born and raised in India would be very, very different than somebody who's raised in a more wealthy and a more affluent society, because then, the degree of hustle that you actually do, especially in your early days, which really charts the trajectory of what you do for the rest of your career, or at least how you think for the rest of your career, becomes also very, very interesting. So I would say those are very unique.
This is super interesting because you're talking about the hustle, you're talking about people who've seen hardship, they come from a system that is in many ways loaded against them. I think that's one of the things also that you wanted to say. Ayush, we saw Elon Musk also tweet in response to someone else saying that the US has benefited greatly from Indian talent. Now that is true, but that's also something that's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, saying, look, Elon Musk has reminded us all that our best have to go abroad to really shine, and all the value that they add is not really benefiting India, it's benefiting some other country.
Shiv, who better than Elon Musk to remind us about anything, and that too on Twitter? But it was interesting, it came as a comment to one of the tweets that you read out, which was talking about the top 6 tech companies in the US being headed by Indian origin CEOs. And yes, it was a very pertinent point brought up by Elon Musk, very terse and short in what he said. But there's another side to this as well. For those of us who are saying that there's this brain drain happening, from our tech coverage of the last few months, we've seen through the pandemic, there's this whole bunch of Gen Z, really, very motivated and poised individuals who've gone to Ivy League universities out there and have dropped out in their first or second year to come back and set up a company here in India. There is a reverse brain drain happening as well, and there's all sorts of movement. This is the same country from where Freshworks started and then listed on the NASDAQ. Saket was running a very successful business here in India, and he continues to run a cybersecurity business which spans the world globally. The only point that I want to bring up over there was something that he said about the hustle, which maybe gives us that cutting edge when we do go abroad. And I remember, an American professor tried to coin the term jugaad, and essentially what they came up with was frugal innovation, which doesn't get the essence of it, so to speak. But even though what Elon Musk pointed out was very pertinent, because although we are going there, the question that I want to ask, on your show especially, is, are we being rewarded in a commensurate way? At the end of the day, so many of our brightest minds go down to the US on an H-1B visa, and then obviously they've charted out for the short to medium or long term to be there. The path to residency isn't easy. The wait time, the average wait time for some of the H-1B or the EB-2 visa holders is 100 plus years. Shouldn't that system be rewarding us a little more in terms of the innovation and the stuff that we've done, and clearly with proven credentials as well?
Saket, you're in a perfect position to give us like a quick snap prescription, okay? We'll make sure that the US government is listening. We'll make sure that the Indian government is also listening. Give us 3 or 4 points of things that you would like to see changed, so some of those things that Ayush just mentioned become a reality. That, it's difficult to talk about, foreign and Indian in this globalized economy. Those borders are completely invisible right now, and the free flow of money. But what are the 3 or 4 things you would change so that perhaps the next big tech story is right here in India? We've seen many unicorn stories, but the next one is actually purely Desi.
So, as you know, Desi has various flavors, and what do I mean by that is, to Ayush's point, which I totally agree, the US actually has multiple avenues. I've been personally very fortunate because I made the move to the Silicon Valley in 2018. And I was, in a way, welcomed by, arms widespread, because I didn't have to apply for an H-1B. They have this visa called O1 visa, which is literally called a visa for extraordinary talent. And I got that visa in 3 days of application. And by the way, remember, these were Donald Trump days. These were not even President Biden days. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that the US actually has some pretty phenomenal ways by which it almost puts a red carpet if you are or you can prove what you're the best at what you're doing, what you claim to be doing. So that's the US. The India, you want to keep this in mind, that when you say a Desi company, I look at Desi companies in 2 ways. One can be made in India, made for the world. And I think the best example, I cannot think of something better than Freshworks or Zoho, which are truly made in India, made for the world. Or if you look at the big companies in India, like some of the largest companies, including the TCSs and the Wipros, and they're really made in India, made for the world, because they are not. They take less than 10% of their revenue from India. But because they're services, their multipliers, their valuations are not like $1 trillion, $2 trillion, but they've executed phenomenally well. I think now it's a time, because of the SaaS explosion which is coming out. I think now is the time where you'll actually have a lot of these big SaaS companies made in India, made for India. That's like pure Desi. And what better testimony than 70 unicorns, out of which majority of them are made in India and making for India. So I would say the train's already left the station. It's just a matter of time where you will actually see live a lot of Desi companies, Desi companies, if I can call it as, and it's also a function of how big the market is. Because remember, we are 1/6 of the total economy, while we are 3 times in the population. So while the opportunity is massive, the business is still very little, and the multipliers remain the same when you do revenue.
Absolutely.
If it's a Square versus a payment companies in India. I hope that just adds some context about what we are doing versus what the US is doing.
I'm gonna let that very optimistic note be the last word on this very enlightening segment. The train has left the station, and even though Desi has many meanings, should the Desi company could be the next big thing that we can all look forward to. 70 unicorns, Indians everywhere in the constellation of big tech in the United States. Let's hope, because we like to simplify things so much here on television, let's hope the next big story is really out from right here in India. Ayush, as always, and Saket, great to have you for the first time here on India Today. We look forward to having you on board again. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this segment. We'll continue to track the big tech stories as always first here on India Today. Very quick break on the other side, 6 p.m. prime with Pooja Shali. The big Parliament meltdown is the story of the day. She's going to take you through all the highlights, all the brickbats, all the shouting and screaming inside and outside Parliament, and how it played out. That's coming up next.